Yo, what's up, everyone? Good morning and happy Thursday, assuming you're watching this live. If not, happy whatever day you're at right now. This is my weekly office hours where I answer all of your startup questions, help you launch sooner and scale faster to find that elusive traction. We've got one big question that I want to focus on today about how you go about the process of translating a service business that's been successful into a software as a service business. So how you translate a non-scalable business into a scalable startup. So that's going to be kind of fun. And the tools and techniques that I'm going to talk about in there are going to be those that are pretty broadly applicable to any kind of startup. So I think it's a great topic for us to focus in on. Super happy to kind of power through that. This came from a conversation that I had during a mentoring session yesterday with a founder. So it's kind of a cool little topic here. So let's go ahead and just kind of dive right on into it. So like I said, this is the how do you go about the process of translating a service business that's successful into a software as a service business that hopefully also will be successful. There's a lot buried in here. So it's kind of just unpack it for a second. So the big thing that is built into here is, all right, we're launching a software as a service startup. Now that is a different game. So it's important to recognize that we're doing something different than what we have been doing. So the fact that you had a successful service does not necessarily mean that you will also have a successful software service. So we need to tease that out. Those are two separate things. Also, we're talking about launching a new software into the market, which means that we have all of the uncertainty that comes along design thinking and so forth. So that's a big part of that as well. And then on top of that, we also have this dual nature of we have customers from the old business and we want customers from the new business. And what's the difference between those and how does all that look? And that it's kind of a big old mess that we're making. So I want to kind of unpack all of that. So to start with, the very first thing that we want to say is, okay, what do we actually have validation for? So if you have a service business that's been fairly successful, then you can say, okay, here's what we're doing well, here's what's worked, here's what hasn't worked, and you can just start with those basic components to see, like, do we understand customers' needs, customers' wants, customers' fears? What are the kinds of customers that have said yes to our service? What are the kinds that have said no? And then we can start to pivot into, okay, so how is this different? So I've talked before at length on my channel about business models. So a business model is four components. It's who's the customer, what's the value proposition, how is that value created and delivered, and why does this make money? Always those four components, no matter what tool you're using, business model canvas, lean canvas, business plan, et cetera, they're all just different variations of those same four components. So your existing service business has a particular customer. That's the who. You have a value proposition you're creating. Say you're increasing efficiency or decreasing costs or whatever. Then you have how that is created and delivered. That's a service. You're doing a service business. And why does this make money? It's because the margins on your human resources and whatever other supporting things you have are greater than what you're taking in, and you're able to get customers, and that supports the sales efforts and so forth. So that's the who, what, how, and why. When you translate to that into the service business, the big thing that we're pivoting is what? It's the how, right? So we may pivot the customer, we may pivot the value proposition. We're almost certainly going to pivot the revenue model and all the why stuff, but the how is what we're choosing to change. We're saying we're taking the value proposition that we've been delivering through a one-on-one human service, and we're translating that into a software as a service. So we're completely changing how that value is created and how that value is delivered to customers. So that's our big pivot. That's our big tweak. So what that's going to translate to is that all those other three components of the business model are going to have to shift too. And so this is where I come back to, do you understand your current customers and what are their needs, wants, and fears? Who's saying yes, who's saying no? Because as we shift that how is that going to change what customer is interested in that? Is it going to be that the customers who are saying no because of cost are now going to say yes to this because it's less expensive? Or is there something against the manual services that's just not something that interests them, or is allow you to break into slightly different niches and industries because it's a self-service thing as opposed to, relying on the human expertise of your team, etc. So you're thinking about that, like, why is it, how is it different in that case? So you have a customer that's probably different. The value proposition, the what question, might change. It probably will, because it's going to be self-service or something akin to self-service. It's going to be something that they manage on their own and they're able to use on their own, and they don't have to go through your team, and so on and so forth. So that's going to introduce at least new parts of the value proposition, and it might shift other parts of the value proposition. So you got to tweak that. And then, of course, the why does this make money? That will pivot in some significant ways. So the obvious way is that, like, the revenue model is going to change. Instead of charging fee for service, we're going to charge a monthly or annual subscription fee. Maybe it's by seat, maybe it's by usage, maybe it's by whatever, but we're going to charge those. So we know that's going to change. We know our underlying cost structure is going to change. Our human resources are going to go way down, but our technology is going to go up. And, SaaS is not hard to make money at if you have the customer. So, okay, great, fantastic, that's cool. And then you have, switching costs and LTV and everything, like lifetime value, customer acquisition costs, and all that. They're going to go into this. Why does this make money? But the other thing, the big new thing that's part of the why equation for the software as a service model that wasn't really there in the human service model, is the scale part of this. Because the whole reason to do this is to scale. So now you have to have a large volume of customers there such that this becomes an interesting business endeavor. So how do you know that? If you take that existing who question, the customer question, and you pivot it based on the things that we talked about and a few things that we didn't, and you get to a new customer, how many of them are out there? Are there enough of them out there to make this interesting? And if you put that in front of them, are the switching costs for them such that they were willing to make that transition? And then are there enough of them out there who are willing to do that? Are they feeling the pain severely enough and urgently enough that they're willing to solve this right now? So you have that big mix that goes in there. But once you get that all dialed in, you have a new business model. So this is business model innovation. This is where you take business model innovation is just where you take one component of this thing, the who, what, how, and why, and you tweak it. And then that leads to tweaking a couple of other things. And now you have a whole new business model. Okay, so great. Now we have a business model. Basically, where we're at right now, to wrap back to where I started, is we're at the point where you're at when you start any software business, when you start any startup, is that we have this business model that's largely untested. We probably have more data than we would if we were just starting with a cockamamie scheme that we came up with in our heads, because we have some understanding of our customers and kind of who they are, but we really don't have a lot of data. We just have a little bit of information that's kind of part of that. So we have to go about the process of validating that, get our riskiest assumptions, and do all of that craziness that we ordinarily have to do as part of that process. But this is where we can get a lot more actionable than a lot of people think. Because if you've been doing the service business for a while, you're gonna think, okay, well, I kind of know what the service has to be. Maybe I have some supporting tools and so forth that are they're helping me with this. I can just go out and build this software, and then I can go sell it to some people. Setting aside that you still have some things to figure out in terms of, are you selling it to your existing customers, or are your existing customers the high dollar customers, the upmarket stuff? And so we want to keep them paying for the service because they're paying a premium, but all of the people that are not paying for our service or don't have as big of budgets to do that, we want to funnel them into this because it's more profitable to us. So you have that question to figure out. But on top of that, you don't really need to go out and build the software. You're not really there yet. Where you are right now in this process is trying to figure out if the thing is worth building in the first place, because we have a whole new business model hypothesis that we have to validate. So the best thing you can do is bust out the usual set of tools. So if you want to create any new software product, any new standard scalable startup, or even honestly a non-scalable startup this works with too, is you're going to start by saying, can I find the customers out there? If you're translating an existing human service into a SaaS service, then you probably know how to find some of these customers, or if the customer stays close enough, you know how to find them. So great, you can get in front of them. Cool. Can you get the value proposition to resonate with them? Can you put a message out on LinkedIn? Can you send DMs? Can you do whatever? Can you actually get people to come on in to that space? And let's assume that you can. That's great. Then the next thing we need to do is actually test that the software is going to work, that it's going to deliver the results and the impact. And this is where rapid prototyping comes into play. Anybody who spent any time on my channel or just with me otherwise knows I'm a huge fan of rapid prototyping, because it dramatically decreases the failure rate of startups. And the more prototypes that you do, the more that you are likely to succeed. And a rapid prototype is not a minimum viable product. It's not an MVP. It's not functional. It's a facade of the product that you put in front of customers, have them interact with in order to get real feedback. So for a software product, it's pretty straightforward. Usually you just mock up some screens, and you can do this in Google Slides or Keynote or Canva or whatever tool you're already familiar with. If you're like a Figma wizard, then by all means, like go and do something in Figma, but keep it light, keep it disposable. It's something we're going to chuck away and round file it in the garbage when we're done. So you put this thing together, it takes an hour, maybe a day at the most, and then we put that in front of customers and we have them walk through that on their own and see if that actually resonates. And if they're getting that wow, oh my gosh moment, and it's like eyes light up and so forth, then at that point you have something that's interesting. And if you can do all of that, then you should be able to get to letters of intent. And if you get to the letters of intent, those are the LOIs, are where your customers, these B2B customers, are saying, if you build it, I will buy it. And they sign something to that effect. They're not really legally binding. That's not the point. But the point is that they are putting their name to that. Yes, I find this sufficiently interesting that I'm willing to sign my name to say that if you build this, I will buy it. And here are all the terms and specifics for that. So once you get to that point, and this is the goal. I should have started with this. This is the goal for the whole thing. Once you get to that particular point, you actually have done the hard work. All that's left is the easy stuff. What's the easy stuff? Actually building software. Software's not hard. There are some edge cases for that, sure, if you're doing something truly innovative, but you're almost certainly not. You're probably doing something not very innovative and not very interesting. Hugely valuable, but not very interesting. So if you prove the valuable part and you get these LOIs of people saying they're willing to pay for it, you can get the funding, even if you don't have it, to build the thing, because you've already done the hard part. And hiring engineers to build something is fairly straightforward, or finding a CTO is fairly straightforward. You can do that. You can get that work done, but you've already done the hard part, which is create something that's valuable to people, put it in front of them and get them to say, oh my gosh, this is so valuable. I'm signing my name to this letter of intent. Because if you get there, you can build the software and you'll be fine. So to recap the whole thing, the building the software is the last step. If you want to translate a human service into a software as a service, building software is the non-interesting part. It's all the way at the end of the process, subject to a couple of caveats and footnotes. So it's all the way at the end of the process. What's at the beginning of the process is saying, what does this business model look like? So you pivot your existing business model, you iterate on it to come up with a new thing. You say, this is my new business model. This is who the customer is, what the value proposition is, how am I creating and delivering value, and this is why this makes money. So you have a hypothesis, a model that you can play with. Then you say, can I get in front of those customers? Can I get them to resonate with the problem? Can I get them to resonate with the value proposition that we're creating? And if we can, that's great. Let's create some rapid prototypes of this, put those in front of those customers that we were able to find, get that feedback coming in, get them saying, yes, oh my gosh, I want this, get letters of intent, then use those letters of intent or pre-sales or whatever else to get the funding you need to actually build the software, which was the easy part. So that is my tour de force of how you translate a physical human service, like a consulting service, into a software as a service. And part of the tool there is the rapid prototyping. So I will drop a little announcement here. I'm going to have a rapid prototyping course that will be launching in July. I'll be opening up the pre-sales soon for a nice cool discount. There's going to be some videos and some free templates and some resources and so forth to help you master this art of rapid prototyping, of being able to come up with what you need to prototype, how to find customers and the right customers to put that prototype in front of, what you do once you get that prototype with a customer in the room, and then how you get that data back from customers to iterate on that in order to find a big win. So yeah, keep in mind that rapid prototyping course. I'll be announcing that sometime in the next few weeks for pre-sales, and then it'll go live in July. So keep an eye out for the rapid prototyping course. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and kind of call it here because I've been rambling a while on a single topic. So that's cool. So hello to everyone here watching live. Love you guys. Awesome. Yeah, I'll be back next Thursday, here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, to answer whatever questions that you've got. Stay tuned for information on the rapid prototyping. And I'm going to call it here. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And I will see you guys next week. Peace.